Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of my favorite 400 sports cards. Red hosting. These were my cards that I featured last week. We are now counting down at number 288, and this is a card from 1922, so just over 100 years old. It's made by a Canadian company called Nielsen Chocolates. They made chocolate milk, chocolate bars. The set was kind of a spin-off of a E120 American Caramel set. This is George High Pockets Kelly, nicknamed that because he was 6'4", was a first baseman for the world champion New York Giants of the time, led the league in home runs this 1921 season as he hit 23. That total led the National League, but the American League winner had 59 in Babe Ruth. Now, George also led the league in RBIs a couple of times, but overall had an underwhelming career for a Hall of Famer. Just a 26 career WAR, had 1,778 hits, 148 homers, and just a 794 OPS, which is definitely on the low side for a first baseman. But he was on a good team and was a leader of that team. He won a couple World Series, 21 and 22 over the Yankees. He was in 4 for the New York Giants. So George High Pockets Kelly. Next featured card is a football card from 1971, and this is Broadway Joe. Now, this card means a bit to me because I acquired it from my cousin who bought it. That was the first year he bought packs. I didn't buy stuff till 73, but I got it in a trade. So basically, I'm the second owner and owned it probably for over 50 or about 50 years. Joe is best known for his 1969 Super Bowl guarantee that they were going to beat the Colts. An AFL team had never, at the time, won a Super Bowl. It was just the third Super Bowl, but they ended up beating the Colts. He also was the first 4,000-yard passer ever, and wasn't done again until Dan Fouts did it. He was always a player that played with a lot of flair. He was a big-time dunker in high school basketball, was a really good high school baseball player, pursued by multiple teams. He wanted to sign. This was before the draft. He wanted to sign with the Pirates and play with his boyhood idol, Roberto Clemente, but his mom said, I want you to get an education and go to school, so he ended up playing football at Alabama. Probably a good decision as he won a national title there, as well as his NFL title with the Jets. He did have a fairly short NFL career, though, because of knee troubles, and the years I remember him, his knees were aching him pretty bad. I remember him for this episode on the Brady Bunch, which was my favorite show as a little kid. He came to the Brady house, I think, to console Bobby, and ended up getting to play football with Bobby and his friends. And I thought that was a pretty cool episode because I was probably about the same age at the time. The back of his card, you can see that 4,000-yard passing season in there. And then that little cartoon there, you can see that he teamed up with Mickey Mantle for a business adventure. And speaking of Mickey Mantle, he is going to be my next featured card. So this is his 57 Topps card. A card that at first I didn't like so much just because of the darker background. But the more you look at it, it really actually shows him and his follow-through pose really well coming out of that dark background. I like his facial features on the card. And this is coming off one of the best seasons anyone really has ever had in baseball, that 1956 Triple Crown season. And so I always like that from the back of the card because he's coming off of that season. 132 runs scored, 52 homers, 130 RBIs, 353 batting average. That came out to be a 1.169 OPS. And then you could even argue that his 57 season, so the season of this card, might have even been better as that 57 season. He had a 365 average. He had a .512 on-base percentage, unheard of, a .665 slugging percentage. And each of those years, 56 and 57, he had over 11 WAR, which that doesn't happen very often, and was MVP in each of those seasons. So great all-time center fielder there in Mickey Mantle. Next up, we have a 1967 Topps of Jim Palmer. So Palmer, his rookie card is a 66, so this is his second card. He's just 20 years old here, coming off a 15-10 season. He threw a shutout in the World Series that the Orioles won over the Dodgers, youngest player at the time to ever throw a shutout in the World Series. He had 8 20-win seasons, all for the Orioles. His whole career is with the Orioles. Led the league in ERA a couple of times, led the league in innings pitched 4 times, was a 3-time Cy Young winner, and twice came in second. He never had 200 strikeouts in a season, although he did have 199 one season. He has the distinction of winning a World Series in 3 different decades. So 66 when he was 20, then they beat the Reds in 1970, and then they beat the Pirates in 1983. He also lost 3 World Series, so being in 6, I think, is quite a feat. He had career 268 wins, 67. Love those greenbacks. He had 53 career shutouts, under 3 career ERA, and 68.5 career WAR. Knew how to use his defense. He had Brooks Robinson, Mark Belanger, Bobby Grich, Paul Blair, some all Gold Glovers there in the field, and he knew how to use them. Never did get along great with his manager, but I think his manager liked having him there in that rotation. Next on the list, we've got a guy who's not in the Hall of Fame, but a very similar career WAR in the same era. In fact, he had a 66.1, just 2 less than Palmer. And you think of Palmer almost being kind of mid-upper echelon kind of Hall of Famer. But Tiant was a 229-game career winner, 4-time 20-win seasons, twice led the league in ERA, and each of those years had ERAs under 2. Just show there's Tiant's rookie card. But this 1968 season, Tiant really got overshadowed by Denny McLain, but he actually had a better WAR than Denny McLain. He had a 1.60 ERA, 1.60. 264 strikeouts in 258 innings, so more than a strikeout an inning. Then he also had a 1972 season where he led the league in ERA at 1.91. By then he was with the Red Sox. I remember him this season very well. 1975, pitching against the Reds in the World Series. And one thing you always remembered about Louis Tiant was his delivery. His getting into the stretch. He'd do that shake with the arms coming down. Then he'd wheel facing second base, turning all the way, and then suddenly turn towards home and fire home. As kids, we would love to emulate batting stances, pitching deliveries, and Tiant's was probably one of the more famous to try to copy for the kids. And you always knew whose it was when you did Louis Tiant. But favorite card is this one with that awesome Fu Manchu coming off a 21 season. Louis also had a very famous father, Luis Tiant Sr., who played in the Negro National League from Cuba, as Louis Jr. was also born in Cuba. And my goal someday is to get a Louis Tiant Sr. baseball card. They do exist. And they're not plentiful by any means, but I have seen just a couple in my lifetime out for auction. It'd be, I think, pretty cool to get one. All right, next on the list, we got a Gaudy card from 1933, and this is Tony Lazzeri, the shortstop Hall of Famer from the New York Yankees in the era of Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. Tony was a really good defender, but he also had some pop in his bat. His first 2 years hit 18 homers. This 33 season, he also had 18 homers, and he did it a 4th time as well. 7 times had over 100 RBIs, so not bad for a shortstop. He's 29 years old on this card, so kind of in the middle of his career. He got MVP votes 7 of his first 8 seasons. He retired with 1,840 hits and 178 home runs and a 292 batting average. So not bad for a good fielding shortstop. Show the back of his card as well. A little soiled on that card, but for a 33 Gaudy, it doesn't really detract. And then last on the list today, we've got a 63 Fleer card. So Fleer kind of snuck in. They hadn't, other than like a Ted Williams set, they really hadn't had much for baseball cards, but they actually got an active player card in 1963. And this 63 set didn't actually get completed. They came out with a first series. That's what the box looked like. The cards came with a cookie, as it says on the box there. Comes with a cookie. Cookie was this cherry flavored thing. But unfortunately, after one series, Topps fought them, and I don't even know what it was over, but somehow Topps won, and Fleer wasn't able to come out with their second series. They did have some good Hall of Famers in that first series, like Willie Mays and Clemente were in there, Carl Yastrzemski, and then Murray Wills got a card, and he had always had that dispute with Topps. Didn't have a Topps card for, I think, till 1968. He wasn't even a Dodger then anymore, but he has a 63 Fleer, which is kind of cool. But here we are featuring Orlando Cepeda, another Hall of Famer. Cepeda had some really big years early on with the New York Giants, including the 62 season was one of his better seasons. 35 homers, 114 RBIs, 306 average. I think it was the year before this that he led the league in homers with 46, as well as RBIs. He won an MVP later in his career with the Cardinals as a first baseman. And then what I actually remember him for was a DH with the Red Sox towards the end of his career. But he was a good first baseman, had over 2,300 career hits, 379 career home runs, and a 50.1 career WAR. So 63 Orlando Cepeda. And that will do it for today. Get down to showing today's featured cards. Oop, I'm missing. Get that Lazeri up there. All right, thanks for watching. We will see you again next week.